Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is our pleasure to be your moderators for today's webinar. My name is Jan Eric Gajardo,
I am Mark Gerzon.
and welcome to the Health Talk series, Lingkod Kalusugan, the School of Nursing. We're excited to have you join us today for a discussion on the ABCs of healthcare ethics: autonomy, beneficence, and competence.
Before we start our program, let's do a roll call, please. Please type present into the Q&A section. Nursing first years? How about second years? Where are the third years? And lastly, fourth years?
Now, before we officially start, I would like to remind everyone of our webinar guidelines and etiquette. So first things first, arrive at the video conference on time. Second is to test your audio and video before the meeting begins. The third is wait for your turn. Fourth, keep yourself muted unless speaking, engaging in conversation to reduce background noise. Fifth, speak clearly, speak up, and be direct so everyone can hear you. And lastly, when you want to contribute, but it's not your turn, use the chat features. Now, we would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of our Assistant Dean of the School of Nursing, Ms. Nancy Lacerna, on behalf of Dr. Jidel Cabaluna, Dean of the School of Nursing, the Vice President for Academics, our Fourth Instructor of NCM 108 Healthcare Ethics or Bioethics, and NCM 119 Nursing Leadership and Management and Professional Adjustment, Dr. Virgo C. Lopez, and also the faculty members who are here to join us in our webinar today. Once again, thank you so much. Everyone, let's give them a virtual clap, please.
Before we officially begin, let's take a moment to prepare ourselves for this enlightening session.
We'd like to start with a moment of reflection. I'd like to invite Ms. Sheen Carganilla to lead us in a prayer, followed by the national anthem.
So let us all bow our heads and put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Lord God, thank you for your great love. Thank you for giving us another day, another blessing, and another chance at life. We come to you today, Lord, with our humble hearts to seek guidance and wisdom as we begin this program. We pray that you will bless every person who has gathered here today, and let us all use this time as an opportunity for learning, growth, and fellowship. May you help us listen to one another with open hearts and open minds. We pray that everyone here will support one another as we strive to serve you in all that we do. May we also humbly ask for strength and the courage to follow your will in everything we do today, Father. And with that, we give you back all the glory, praise, and thanksgiving as we proceed with our activities today. Amen.
Thank you for that heartfelt prayer, Ms. Sheen. Let us now sing our national anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang mag-ibig, elas ang sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa higit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyagan ang mahiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatang tulog sa simoy at sa langit ng wagaw, ay hinagang tulakaw, sa pagkayang
Now, let us delve into some fundamental principles that guide nursing practice: the autonomy, beneficence, and competency.
Indeed. Autonomy in healthcare is a foundational principle that emphasizes the rights of individuals to make decisions about their medical care. It encompasses various dimensions, including the patient's autonomy and autonomy within the healthcare system itself. Moreover, it allows healthcare professionals the freedom to practice ethically and independently within legal and regulatory frameworks.
Moving on to beneficence, it is defined as the ethical principle that emphasizes the duty of healthcare providers to act in the best interest of their patients, prioritizing their well being and advocating for their rights. Nurses are expected to promote the health and welfare of their patients, protect them from harm, and ensure that their needs are met with compassion and respect.
Competence, on the other hand, refers to the knowledge, skills, and abilities that nurses must possess to deliver safe and effective care. Competence involves recognizing the limitations of one's knowledge and skills and seeking guidance or collaboration when necessary to ensure the best possible outcomes for patients.
And with that, I can't wait to learn more of these principles from our esteemed guest speakers.
So am I. As we prepare to hear our speakers, let us open our hearts and minds to the wisdom and inspiration of our special guest. To formally start our program, let us welcome Mr. Chimarxi Madriaga, the newly elected Vice President for Finance of the Philippine Nurses Association, to grace us with his inspirational message to set the tone for our event.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, po, sir, we can hear you po.
Morning, sir.
Okay. So again, good morning. And to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Emerson B. Vibar, Director Virgo Lopez, Dean Judel Cabaluna, Associate Dean Ms. Priscilla Nancy Lacerna, and to our dear students of the Pan Pacific University, good morning. On behalf of the PNA Pangasinan chapter, officers under the leadership of President Aldwin Ilaw, we would like to extend our warmest gratitude for inviting us in your activity today. So we are tasked to give you inspirational message. As nurses, we are the heart and soul of the healthcare system. Not even the heart and soul, but even the backbone of our healthcare system. Our compassion, our dedication, and resilience will light the path for countless patients in their darkest hours. Kanina nga dun sa video nyo, nakita ko your 25th capping and pinning, and I see the lamp, which signifies the light that will guide us in taking care of our patients. So tayo din yung nagiging ilaw nila in their recovery. So that is very, very good. And we are also beacons of hope, bringing comfort and healing to those who are in need. Grabe yung word, no? Beacon of hope. Parang tayo talaga yung pinanghahawakan ng mga pasyente natin for them to really get well doon sa mga nararamdaman nila. And as nurses, also our dedication to care, to transform lives, and to shape futures. And our compassion to heal the wounds of our patients, not even the wounds that we see, but even also to the wounds that we don't see with our naked eyes. So our commitment makes a difference every day to the lives of our patients. And as future nurses, your journey in the future will be rewarding in a sense na, rewarding not monetarily, but yung feeling of fulfillment of what we are doing. Okay, and the impact that we give to our patients. And we are also filled with moments of affirmation that your purpose as a nurse in the future of touching lives with kindness and expertise. Kaya ngayon nakita natin kanina yung what are the basic na ano natin kanina, the autonomy, the beneficence, and your competence. So I appreciate that you have this kind of activity because this serves as an avenue in honing you of what you should become in the future. A nurse that gives value and importance to healthcare ethics. A nurse that emphasizes patients' right to make their own decision. Ano yung definition natin doon kanina? Yung minention nyo earlier. So we give the patient the right to decide on their own. Yung sa ating overview, we exercise the patient's autonomy. Yun na-mention ninyo dun sa overview. And with this kind of webinar, we also prepare you to be a nurse that focuses on doing what is good for your patients. You're advocating what again? Dun sa overview natin? Your beneficence. And above all, a competent nurse. A competent nurse that is highly skilled and capable in providing quality healthcare services. And I believe that Pan Pacific University is working very hard to mold you and to hone you to be the best nurse in the future. Am I right? Tama po ba, Director Lopez? So let us all take this opportunity today to learn. Let's explore together the principles that will guide our actions in ensuring the highest standards of care and compassion for all our patients. Sooner or later, magiging colleagues na namin kayo, and some of you will siguro choose to work in the hospital. And when you start working in our hospitals, doon na talaga natin makikita yung the real battlefield. So lahat ng mga pinag-aaralan natin sa school will be applied with a certain level of difficulty kasi meron tayong may experience dyan na mga hindrances in executing, in providing what we have learned in school. So yung from concept and theories to application doon sa work natin when we become nurses already, may mga hindrances na tayo doon. But what I would like you to remember is to never deviate yourselves from what you have learned in school, because these are basic principles, knowledge na kakailanganin natin when we are already working in the hospital, when we are already in the real battlefield. So this is a very important foundation. Sinasabi nga nila, parang ang hirap i-control ngayon ng mga Gen Zs. Even us, we can also experience na parang ang hirap nilang turuan pag nandun na sila sa setting ng ating mga hospitals. So, pero kung i-inculcate natin ito, isasabuhay natin ito, for sure, hindi kami mahihirapan when you already transfer dito sa ating mga hospitals. So kudos to all our clinical instructors, to all our deans, na ginagawa ninyo lahat-lahat para mapabuti sila pag ika-catch na namin sila in clinical setting or whatever na work field that they will choose soon in the future. So I think yun lang ang may bibigay ko na inspiration sa inyo. Study hard, don't lose the basics, the foundations that you are learning in the school. with the help, of course, of our deans, associate deans, and clinical instructors. So, in behalf again of the Philippine Nurses Association, see you the soonest na mag-conduct tayo ulit ng ating oath-taking dito sa Pangasinan. And I believe na with the foundation that the university is giving you, you will achieve a 100% na passing rate soon pag nag-exam na kayo, no? And see you all in the future, be it in our hospital, in whatever field that you will choose, in the academe, or if you want to serve in the community, na kailangan din natin ngayon. So, I wish you all the best from Philippine Nurses Association, Pangasinan chapter. We look forward na maging colleagues na namin kayo at maging ka-member na namin kayo sa PNA. So again, thank you and enjoy this very important journey and day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chimark C. Madriaga. To express our gratitude, we would like to invite Mr. Chimark C. Madriaga on screen to receive the e-certificate. Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is presented to Mr. Chimark C. Madriaga, RN, MAN, for imparting his insights and knowledge to the students during the webinar entitled Health Talks Series, A Lingkod Kalusugan of the School of Nursing, with the theme The ABCs of Healthcare Ethics, given this 9th day of May 2024 at Pan Pacific University, Urdaneta City, Pangasinan. Once again, sir, thank you po.
Now the time has come. Get ready to listen closely and have your pen and papers at the ready. Without further ado, let us invite Dr. Virgos Lopez to introduce our esteemed speakers.
Thank you, John, and to our working committee. But before anything else, I cannot help but to express my gratitude to Mr. Chimark C. Madriaga, sir, the VP for Finance of PNA Pangasinan Chapter. Namumutawi po ang maiinam po na salita na nabanggit po ninyo for our nursing students, and to respond to the challenge, I think, that you have raised, we commit to ensuring that our next in line or generation of nurses would be the professionals with the heart, the hand, and of course, the head to be able to serve our community. Maraming salamat po, and we look forward also to collaborating with you more than this webinar, that in the next activities, we would also be in action in attending to your activities in the PNA Pangasinan chapter, sir. On that note, it's also my privilege to introduce to you our speaker to contextualize our topic for today. Our speaker is a registered nurse and a licensed professional teacher, having served the Ministry of Teaching for almost 12 years in basic, undergraduate, and advanced education. He finished his Bachelor of Science and Master of Arts degrees in nursing at Bicol University in Albay. In pursuit of scholarship, he further took his doctorate degree in educational management at Polytechnic University of the Philippines in Santa Mesa, Manila. His professional career ranges from being an academic, nurse practitioner, scholar, and researcher. He has facilitated local and international conferences, having served as a plenary speaker, session facilitator, and moderator for research paper presentations. He also provides consultancy services to various educational institutions to advance research, teaching, and community engagement. He offers thesis advising and paneling services when his expertise is called for. His research interests are social health research, leadership studies, and internationalization of education. Presently, he is a regular academic staff at the University of Santo Tomas, where he holds the rank of Senior Teacher 3. He serves the university in a few capacities, namely Chair of the Professional Advancement Committee, regular scientific member of the Research Ethics Committee, member of the Training Outputs Quality Assurance Committee, and as a member of Local Crisis Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome a friend, a nurse and educator, to talk about empowering patients, ensuring well-being, fostering shared decision-making through respect for autonomy, and beneficence in clinical encounters. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Emerson Son B. Vivar. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez, for that very generous introduction. Am I clear and audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I be allowed to share my presentation material? I hope you can now see my presentation material.
Yes, sir. We can see it now.
Thank you, sir. All right. Once again, a pleasant morning. First of all, I wish to express my warmest greetings to the officials of the Pan Pacific University, the School of Nursing led by its Dean, Dr. Jodel Cabaluna, represented by its equally able Assistant Dean, Dr. Lacerna. Of course, the course director or the facilitator for NCM 102, Dr. Virgo Lopez. My felicitations as well to the Vice President for Finance of PNA Pangasinan Chapter, Sir Chimark C. Madriaga, who earlier provided us with insightful opening remarks. And then other course facilitators of Pan Pacific University School of Nursing who may be joining us today. And of course, our student nurses who will primarily benefit from this meaningful academic endeavor. Now, I simplified the title of my presentation from the original title of my talk, to Autonomy and Beneficence in Clinical Encounters. I hope I would be given ample time to share more of my insights or reflections about these two very important ethical principles. Now, with the topic given to me, such as patient autonomy and beneficence, I was able to formulate 4 essential learning targets, which hopefully would also serve as the expected outcomes for this sharing. So basically, I would like to zero in on the following. Of course, autonomy and beneficence and their relationship with each other, the trends in patient autonomy and beneficence, the challenges and opportunities as we face as nurses, and you might face as well, my dear student nurses, in the near future. And given these challenges and opportunities, I will be underscoring how we can create balance in promoting autonomy and beneficence while meeting the needs of our clients without violating any professional, legal, and ethical standards. Now, allow me first to give you a recap of what these two ethical principles are. So, autonomy basically refers to a patient's right to self-determination in healthcare. So, this means our patients have the right to make their own decisions about their medical care, about their treatment options, refusal of treatment based on their own beliefs, values, and even their preferences. So there are actually important key points that we have to remember when we talk of autonomy, like respect for personhood. no? Autonomy is rooted on the ethical principle of respecting our patients as individuals with the right to make informed choices. So we have to inform them of the benefits, the consequences of whatever actions they make or whatever decisions they make with regard to treatment options. Another is information sharing. As nurses, we play a very crucial role in providing patients with clear, accurate, and substantially unbiased information as well about their condition and treatment options. These would empower them, this will enable them to make informed decisions. And finally, the decision-making capacity. As nurses, we have to assess our patients' decision-making capacity to ensure that they understand really the information presented to them and in order for them to make informed or free decisions out of those pieces of information. Another is beneficence. Beneficence refers to the ethical principle of acting in the patient's best interest. This means that as nurses, we have to strive to provide care that promotes the patient's well-being. We have to minimize harm, and we have to optimize their health outcomes. So key points that would follow under this particular principle are: first, professional duty. So as nurses, no, we have a professional obligation to act, to behave in the best interest of our patients, even if it differs from our patients' wishes. Another is balancing beneficence with autonomy, which I am going to tackle later on. In situations where patient autonomy and beneficence would potentially conflict, no? For instance, refusing essential treatment, as nurses, we have to work collaboratively with our patients and families, no? As extensions of our patients, to find solutions that respect patient wishes while promoting their overall well-being. And the third one is evidence-based practice. So beneficence is grounded as well in providing care based on the latest scientific evidence and best practices. Now, probably some of you are still wondering about the difference between beneficence and non-maleficence. Well, first of all, of course, both beneficence and non-maleficence are core ethical principles in healthcare, but they have distinct meanings and applications. Now, I asked Gemini, which is an AI tool, okay, and here's what I got. No? According to Gemini, no, beneficence is more of patient's well-being, okay, acting on the patient's best interest, as I mentioned earlier, and promoting their well-being, okay, positive outcomes. While non-maleficence focuses on avoiding harm, okay, avoiding causing harm to the patient. The action in beneficence is more of promoting good, advocating for uh, for best practices rather, okay, like providing care that aims to improve the patient's health and alleviate suffering, advocating for evidence-based practices that have been shown to be effective and efficient, and considering the patient's individual needs, values, and preferences when making treatment decisions. While non-maleficence, no, is preventing harm, minimizing the risks, prioritizing patient safety or client safety, and minimizing the risks associated with any treatment, implementing best practices to prevent errors and complications, as well as refraining from actions that could potentially harm our patients, no? Worsening now the patient's condition. So that's the difference between beneficence and non-maleficence. So is there a relationship between autonomy and beneficence? If there is, how and what are they, and how, no, how are they related? What's their relationship with each other? Well, we know that these are two ethical principles. They are interdependent in nursing ethics. As nurses, no, we have to respect our patient autonomy while guiding them towards beneficial choices through education and shared decision making. Balancing these two ethical principles requires us to commit ourselves towards critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and open communication with our patients. And that is why there are certain considerations that we have to take into account if we really want to adhere to these two ethical principles, like cultural competency, which is very crucial in respecting patient autonomy, as cultural beliefs may influence their decision making. Another is the legal and ethical frameworks, which should guide us, nurses, no? And you, my dear student nurses, in navigating complex situations where autonomy and beneficence may conflict. So by understanding these core principles, we can provide ethical and patient-centered care that balances respect for autonomy with the pursuit of beneficence. Now, there are certain trends in patient autonomy or in adhering to patient autonomy. We have rise of patient education, advanced directives and refusal of treatment, as well as cultural competency and autonomy. Now, patient education has become a significant trend in promoting patient autonomy in healthcare. So this particular slide will explore how increased access to information empowers patients to make informed decisions about their care. So information is considered now as a power, right? The rise of patient portals, online health resources, and educational initiatives equips our patients with knowledge about their condition, about their treatment options, and potential risks and benefits. When they are given by their physician with a diagnosis, they can easily look for information about that diagnosis. No? From the definition, from the clinical manifestations, the diagnostic tests that they could undertake, no? The medical and the pharmacological management, etc. They can easily look those pieces of information in the internet. Another is shared decision making. Okay? Empowered patients can actively participate in discussions with healthcare providers to develop personalized treatment plans that would actually align with their values and preferences. There is now shift not to paternalistic model. Well, traditionally, we know that healthcare followed a paternalistic model. Ibig sabihin, doctors make decisions for their patients, right? That's the traditional practice. Doctors make decisions. Increased patient education now fosters a more collaborative approach, respecting patient autonomy. Okay? So, dito pumapasok sa patient education, yung online patient portals, okay? Disease-specific websites, and mobile health apps, okay, are now on the rise, where educational apps can offer tailored information and self-management tools, promoting patient engagement in their healthcare. Now, with the rise of patient education, what are its benefits? Of course, papasok dyan yung increased patient satisfaction. Feeling informed and involved in decision-making will now lead to higher patient satisfaction and better treatment outcomes. Improve adherence to treatment plans. Patients who understand their treatment rationale are more likely to adhere to medication regimens and lifestyle changes. And reduced healthcare costs. If we empower our patients, they can make informed choices about their care, potentially now reducing unnecessary tests and procedures. Now, there are still challenges and considerations when it comes to patient education. Although we have seen the benefits or the advantages of it, there are challenges and considerations that we have to look into, like health literacy. Ensuring patients, we have to ensure that our patients have the necessary literacy skills to understand complex medical information. Okay? Another is information overload. This is truly a challenge to some patients, especially those who may have not been educated, formally educated. The vast amount of information available online can be overwhelming for our patients. As nurses, we can guide our patients towards credible sources. And we can simplify those pieces of information to our patients without compromising the quality of the information we provide to them. And there is still the digital divide. Unequal access to technology can exacerbate health disparities. Tailoring education methods to address these gaps is essential. So, the rise of patient education, my dear nurses, my dear student nurses, is a positive trend that empowers our patients to take charge of their health and make informed decisions. As nurses, we play a vital role in supporting patient education by providing clear explanations, addressing their questions or queries, and ensuring access to reliable or credible information. Another trend is advanced directives and refusal of treatment while respecting patient autonomy. Now, one of the trends under this is, of course, the growing awareness of our patients with regard to advanced directives. Public knowledge and utilization of advanced directives, such as living wills and durable power of attorney, okay, for healthcare, are on the rise. These documents allow our patients to express their wishes for future medical care, particularly in situations where they are unable to communicate their preferences, their wants. Living wills. Okay? We know that a living will is a legal document that outlines a patient's wishes regarding specific medical treatments they would or they would not want to receive in the event of terminal illness or in the event that they become incapacitated. Of course, durable power of attorney for healthcare, okay, or healthcare proxy, okay, which designates a trusted individual or a representative, okay, a legal representative, an authorized representative to make healthcare decisions on behalf of the patients if they become incapacitated. Now, there are certain considerations, no, that we have to take into account regarding advanced directives. One is honoring patient wishes. As nurses, we have this ethical obligation to respect patients' documented wishes regarding treatment as outlined in their advanced directives. Another, sabi natin, autonomy is putting the best interest of the patient at the core or at the heart of everything else. In situations where advanced directives are unclear, no, or the patient's condition changes, ethical dilemmas may arise. So as nurses, we have to work collaboratively with the patient's family, healthcare team, and ethics committee of the hospital to determine the course of action that aligns with the patient's best interest as they would have understood them. And of course, balancing autonomy and beneficence, which I keep on mentioning even at the outset of my presentation. Ethical tensions can emerge when respecting patient autonomy, to refuse treatment might conflict with the principle of beneficence or acting on the patient's best interest. As nurses, we have to ensure that our patients truly understand the potential consequences of refusing life-sustaining interventions or life-sustaining treatments. And in this case, open communication with families and seeking guidance from ethics committees can be crucial. So overall, advanced directives are powerful tools for promoting patient autonomy. We play a key role in facilitating discussions about advanced directives, ensuring informed decision making, and ethically honoring patient wishes while upholding their best interests. And lastly, cultural competency. Okay? Now, what's the importance of cultural competence? Well, patients come from diverse backgrounds, right? With varying cultural beliefs and values that could actually influence their perspectives on health, illness, and decision making. Now, if we nurses, no, you, my dear student nurses, would become culturally competent, no, culturally competent nurses would recognize these differences and strive to provide care that would respect patient autonomy within their cultural context. Now, how do we recognize diverse perspectives? Okay. First, you look into the communication style. Communication styles can vary across cultures. Some cultures may value direct communication, while others may prefer more indirect approaches to communication. Another is decision-making processes. Family involvement and shared decision-making may be central in some cultures. They truly value the perspectives, the insights, the preferences of the family. while individual autonomy may be more emphasized in some cultures. And of course, religious and spiritual beliefs. Religious and spiritual beliefs can significantly impact how our patients can view illness and treatment options. Now, of course, when we talk of cultural competency, there is a possibility that there might be language barriers. Okay, so there is a need for language interpreters, right? Language interpreters. It's important that we have to utilize qualified medical interpreters, okay, who can facilitate clear communication and informed consent. Okay, sometimes we encounter patients, no, patients who may have difficulty in communicating themselves because they are not Filipinos. So therefore, it is a must, no? It is imperative that doctors would have on-call, no? Qualified medical interpreters who will facilitate, no? Communication and informed consent to these kinds of patients. Another is the use of visual aid, okay, and culturally sensitive materials. Employing visuals and educational materials translated or adapted to the patient's cultural context can also enhance understanding to our patients so that they will be able to make informed decision. Okay? So how can we ensure informed consent in diverse settings? First, respectful communication. We have to take time to understand the patient's cultural background and preferred communication style. Okay? Family involvement is also necessary. Okay? We have to include the family members. No, hindi lang yung pasyente. No? We also have to involve our family members, no? The patient's family members in discussions as appropriate, respecting cultural norms around decision. And we have to use simple or plain language and verification. We have to explain medical information in clear, concise language and verify the patient's understanding by open-ended questions that spark whenever we secure informed consent. No? It's important that physicians, no, as they seek or as they obtain the informed consent, they have to ask questions. No? They have to ask questions, validate whether the patient really understands the information provided to them or not. So by recognizing diverse cultural perspectives and employing culturally competent communication strategies, as nurses, we can ensure that our patients will understand their treatment options and make autonomous decisions that would align with their values, beliefs, and preferences. These would therefore foster trust, promote patient autonomy, and ultimately lead to a more ethical and patient-centered care. Another thing that I would like to share with everyone are the trends in beneficence. So we have here shared responsibility for well-being, the use of technology now, and ethical dilemmas that we encounter, and you, my dear student nurses, might encounter as well in the near future, and the evolving or the changing landscape, no, in healthcare. First is the traditional healthcare models now, no, often position healthcare providers as the sole decision makers. That's the traditional practice, that the doctors will be the one to make decisions. Now, a significant trend is the shift towards collaboration between nurses and then patients to achieve optimal health outcomes. This collaborative approach empowers our patients and fosters shared responsibility for their well-being. So, papasok dito yung konsepto ng patient-centered care. So, patient-centered care prioritizes the patient's individual needs, preferences, and values. As nurses, we have to work in partnership with the patients to develop personalized care plans, individualized care plans that are unique to them, no? That would address individual or specific goals and concerns. Another is facilitating informed decision making by providing clear information and ensuring patients that understand their treatment options. And finally, promoting patient engagement, okay, in their care. How do we do this? We encourage them to ask questions, voice their concerns, or verbalize their concerns, and participate in self-management activities. Now, what are the benefits of collaboration? No? Why do we as nurses have to collaborate with our patients? Why do our patients have to collaborate with us? Okay. First, okay, increase patient satisfaction. This is one of the benefits of collaboration. Patients would feel empowered and involved in their care, leading to higher satisfaction and better adherence to treatment plans. Another is improved health outcomes. If patients would collaborate with us and vice versa, these would foster a sense of ownership over health, motivating now our patients to actively participate in achieving their goals. And of course, enhance communication. Open communication would strengthen nurse-patient relationship, facilitating better understanding of patients' needs and preferences. So, therefore, my dear student nurses, and of course, my fellow nurses who are attending today, we have to embrace collaborative approach and utilize patient-centered care strategies. As nurses, we can build strong partnerships with patients to achieve optimal health outcomes. And this shift, ergo, would emphasize, and would need shared responsibility, foster patient empowerment, and ultimately lead to a more effective and satisfying healthcare experiences. The second trend regarding beneficence is technological advancements. Okay? New technologies now, no, offer significant benefits in promoting patient autonomy and beneficence. There is improved decision making. You see, advanced diagnostics and data analysis can provide now our patients with more information about their condition, empowering now, no, these patients to make informed choices about their treatment options, which is autonomy. Personalized care. Okay? Technological advancements like the use of wearable health monitors, okay, telehealth services. These technological advancements enable us nurses to tailor our care plans, no, or to tailor the plan of care that we develop, no, to individual needs and preferences, thereby promoting beneficence. And of course, increase patient engagement. Technology can empower our patients to manage aspects of their care remotely. They don't have to go to the hospital, although we understand that telehealth, no, teleconsultation has its pitfalls, has its disadvantages as well, particularly in physical assessment or physical examination. But this, in general, no, will promote patient engagement. These would empower patients to manage aspects of their care remotely and access educational resources, fostering informed participation in their healthcare journey. Now we encounter changes, right? We face evolution, no, or transformation in the healthcare landscape. In healthcare, beneficence, acting in the patient's best interest remains a core principle. However, the definition of best interest evolves with advances in medical knowledge and research. As nurses, we play a crucial and critical role in ensuring beneficence by staying current, by staying up to date with these advancements. And so, papasok dito yung evidence-based practice, which I believe have been tackled to you in your nursing research, no? My dear level 3 student nurses in particular. What's the importance of evidence-based practice? First, it serves as the foundation of beneficence. How? You see, evidence-based practice emphasizes basing clinical decisions on scientific research and best practices. With this, we can ensure that our patients receive the most effective and beneficial care possible. Another is the shifting standards. New research can change treatment guidelines and redefine what constitutes optimal care. With the advent of the evidence-based practice, these would allow us, my dear nurses, to integrate these updates, these breakthroughs, these trends into our practice, offering now our patients the access to the latest and most beneficial treatments. Now, the question is, how can we balance? No? How can we balance beneficence with autonomy? Diyan papasok yung shared decision making. While evidence-based practice, as we know it, guides us, nurses, my dear student nurses, respecting patient autonomy is paramount. As nurses, we have to present evidence-based treatment options, explaining the potential risks and benefits. We have to present everything to them, substantial information, clear, accurate, and substantial information to them. Patients can then make informed decisions, aligning their preferences with their latest medical evidence. Okay? So, with this evidence-based practice, we will be able to have improved patient outcomes. Evidence-based practice will contribute to better recovery times, okay, fewer complications among our patients, and ultimately improve patient well-being, which is beneficence. Another is enhanced patient trust. Patients value knowing their nurses utilize the latest evidence, fostering trust in the nurse-patient relationship. And the third one is, of course, continuous quality improvement, formerly known as the total quality management. With the advent of the evidence-based practice, we will be able to encourage, ongoing evaluation of practices, because evidence-based practices itself encourages ongoing assessment and evaluation of practices, leading to continuous improvement in care delivery and ultimately higher standards of beneficence. So with all of this, with all of these trends, okay, beneficence, we have to stay current. We have to keep abreast, okay, with these evolving standards and integrate all of this, okay, particularly evidence-based practice. We have to ensure that we are providing the most beneficial care possible to our patients. And this is a commitment, okay? This is a commitment, okay, to continuous learning, to utilize the best available evidence, and to translate those pieces of evidence to improve patient outcomes and a higher standard of beneficence in nursing practice. However, okay, even though we want to adhere to these ethical principles, we still face challenges, right? And my fellow nurses would actually attest to that, my dear student nurses. Okay? What challenges, do we nurses face, and how can we turn them into opportunities? Okay? Here's a classic example, which I believe you are familiar of. Okay? Refusal of life-saving treatment. Bigyan ko kayo ng example. Let's say a 70-year-old Jehovah's Witness patient, with a life-threatening infection refuses a blood transfusion due to religious beliefs. We know that patients, whose religious affiliation is Jehovah's Witness, they consider blood transfusion as an abomination. Okay? That's why they refuse whenever they are asked to do or to undergo no, when they are advised to undergo blood transfusion, even though 50-50 na yung kanilang buhay. Okay? How can we now balance autonomy and beneficence? Well, we know that our patients have the right to refuse treatment. That's autonomy. However, the blood transfusion offers the best chance of survival, especially if in the scenario that your patient is in a life-threatening scenario, in a life-threatening condition already. Okay? So in that case, we have to respect autonomy and at the same time promote beneficence. How do we do that? We have to explore initially our patient's understanding of the risks and benefits, okay, from this treatment option. Given this treatment option, which is blood transfusion, we provide them clear, accurate, and substantial information. Okay? Another, we can discuss alternative treatment options. Of course, there are new treatment options now, no, as an alternative treatment to blood transfusion. We also have to provide those alternative treatment options to them. Explain the consequences of refusal, okay, given those alternative treatment options, and if necessary, we have to involve as well the family members. Okay? We have to involve as well the family members. Ngayon, ayaw pa din ng patient. Then your last resort would be to seek guidance from the ethics committee of the hospital. It's high time that hospitals should create ethics committee. Okay? Complex scenarios may necessitate guidance, no, from an ethics committee to navigate the balance between respecting patient autonomy and upholding their best interest. Okay? But still, if the patient resists, no, or refuses from undergoing this procedure, then wala tayong magagawa. Okay? We have to let our patient sign the waiver. Okay? Ayan. Another, ayan, refusal of mental health treatment. That's also a classic example. Okay? For example, a 25-year-old patient with untreated schizophrenia exhibits erratic behavior but refuses medication and hospitalization. Again, we wanted to promote autonomy while at the same time observing beneficence. The patient has the right to refuse treatment. However, their illness poses a danger to themselves, okay, because self-harm is possible, and potentially even others. Doon papasok yung beneficence. In that case, we have to assess the capacity of the patient. We have to assess the patient's decision-making capacity to ensure that they truly understand the potential consequences of refusing treatment. Another is the involuntary commitment loss. Depending on the severity of the illness and potential harm, legal avenues, okay, like involuntary commitment might be explored by the hospital, prioritizing patient safety while respecting autonomy to the greatest extent possible. And of course, the focus again on the shared decision making. We have to explore less restrictive treatment options and involve the family in discussions to encourage the patient to consider beneficial treatment options while respecting their autonomy as much as possible. Okay? So, these would boil down to us, my dear nurses. Balancing autonomy and beneficence would definitely require critical thinking, open communication, and ethical reasoning. We should avoid moral relativism in this case and stick to what is ethical and what is ethical and what is legal. Although we understand that there are some ethical, no, ethical beliefs or ethical practices which do not have legal frameworks. And there are also legal frameworks that are not supported well by ethical frameworks. Okay? Real life scenarios often present complexities. So we have to utilize our knowledge, ethical frameworks, and available resources to navigate these challenges, advocating for our patients while upholding their well-being. Okay? So we play a pivotal role in advocating for patients' rights while adhering to the highest ethical standards. And this responsibility would encompass protecting their autonomy. Okay? We have to respect their autonomy. We have to ensure that our patients have the information they need to make informed decisions about their care. We have to present options, explain the risks and benefits in a way understandable to them. We have to promote beneficence. We have to advocate for care plans that align with the latest evidence practices. Promote optimal patient outcomes, even when our patients have a different point of view about those treatments. And ensure informed consent. Balancing advocacy with ethics. The use of ethical framework, okay, the professional code of ethics that we have in the country, okay, which would guide us in our practice and decision making. Okay, principles like advocacy, beneficence, justice, non-maleficence, okay, veracity, etc. Addressing conflicts. Situations may actually arise where patient wishes to conflict with beneficence or professional standards. Again, no, in those cases, we have to advocate for open communication with our patients, explore alternative treatment options, which may need to involve other healthcare professionals. And that is why one of the emerging concepts now in healthcare and nursing is the interprofessional collaboration, okay? Or the interprofessional partnership. We have to work closely with other members of the health team if we really want to consider what is best for our patients, while uh, in order to improve patient health outcomes. Okay. Again, no, to uh, to balance autonomy and beneficence. To conclude this particular session, okay, there are two ethical principles na which I tackled for today. Okay, we have autonomy and then beneficence. Understanding the significance of these two, are essential for us, okay, to provide ethical and patient-centered care. The first thing that we have to do is to educate patients. Okay, educate our patients about the treatment options and the potential risks and benefits. That's how, we can first of all create balance between autonomy and then beneficence. Facilitate shared decision making. We have to involve our patients in discussions and considering their preferences. Not only that, of course, if our patients do not have the necessary decision-making capacity, we also have to involve the family members of our patients as an extension of the patient. Involve other healthcare professionals, or what we call interprofessional collaboration. Involve other healthcare professionals or ethics committees when necessary. And of course, uphold professional ethical codes while advocating for the patient's best interests. With that, okay, there is a need for us to continuously reflect, be reflective in our practice and adapt with the letter A, okay, our practice to maintain ethical standards. Now, I'd like to leave this short statement, which I was able to form, related to patient autonomy and beneficence. Okay? And it says here, the essence of nursing lies in the delicate dance between respecting a patient's autonomy and guiding them towards a path of healing. It is about holding their hand, not their hand forcing them down a particular path. We empower them with knowledge, illuminate the potential consequences, but ultimately, The choice rests with them. Yet within this dance, there is a responsibility to illuminate the way, to gently steer them towards the light of best practices. For true beneficence lies not in usurping the right to choose, but in ensuring their choices are informed and lead them to a healthier tomorrow. With that, these are my references in preparing this presentation. Thank you very much, and I would be very glad to listen to your insights and to have your questions in light with my presentation. Thank you. And once again, good morning.
Thank you, Dr. Milson B. Vibar, for that enlightening talk. Your insights have certainly sparked some fascinating thoughts, whether you have the queries, seeking clarity, or insights to share that further enrich our discussion. We welcome your participation. We will now open the floor for a question and answer portion. If you have any questions or insights, feel free to share them with us. And Dr. Vibar, please stand by for the open forum and Q&A. Thank you.
We highly encourage everyone to participate in our Q&A portion.
Good
Hello.
morning, sir.
Good
Sir,
morning,
my
sir.
question po. My question, sir, is what are the challenges po of shared decision making po?
Okay. Your question is with regard to challenges when it comes to shared decision making. Am I right? Did I get your question right?
Yes, sir. The
Okay.
challenges po of making shared decision po.
Okay. Well, one of the, as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges that the nurses face when it comes to shared decision making is how we will be able to uh, assist our patient, no? Assist our patient in welcoming, no? In welcoming our or in accommodating, no? The information that we provide to them. Okay? Sometimes, no, it's challenging on our end as nurses, no, that uh, uh, whenever we uh, whenever we ask our patients, no, of course the uh, with the support from the physician, no? Because it's the physician who actually obtains the consent, no, from the patient. Okay, sometimes it's challenging on our end on how we will be able to uh, let the patient, no, affirm with the treatment, no, with the treatment, even though that treatment would be the best treatment for him or her or for that patient. Okay? That's the most challenging or difficult part. Okay? Paano natin mapapa-oo yung patient, no, to undergo this particular procedure. Okay? And that is why dun papasok yung role natin as advocates, no, as educators as well, no, to provide information to our patient regarding the potential benefits, the risks of the procedure, the alternative treatments, no, all of this should actually be provided by the physician whenever he or she will obtain the informed consent. Okay? That's the most challenging part when it comes to shared decision making. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. For my
Morning.
question po, how does respecting patient autonomy contribute to better clinical outcomes?
Okay. How does autonomy contribute to better clinical outcomes? Okay. Actually, autonomy, no, as I mentioned earlier, is well, it's the right of the patient to self-determination. So if our patients, would affirm, okay, would make the right decision about their medical care, treatment options, they will not refuse, from undergoing a certain treatment as prescribed or as recommended by the physician, then definitely the patient will be able to recover from his or her illness, from whatever disease he or she may have. Okay? So that is how basically autonomy may contribute to better health outcomes. So if the patient would force faster recovery, short stay in the hospital, no, yeah. So those are the possible beneficial effects of autonomy when it comes to health outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Good morning, sir. Here is my question po. What are some potential challenges healthcare providers face in implementing shared decision-making in clinical encounters?
Okay. I think I was able to answer this question earlier. So your question, sir, seems to be tantamount to the first question given to me. But again, let me give that the same question. Okay. When it comes to challenges, as I mentioned earlier, okay, one important challenge or difficulty when it comes to shared decision making, okay, is how we will be able to let the patients affirm with the treatment options recommended by the healthcare provider. Okay? Still, we would like our patients to become empowered, to actively participate in discussions. Sometimes our patients uh, would share their thoughts, their concerns about the treatment, especially when it comes to budget, when it comes to money. We have patients who are financially challenged, and this would hinder them. This would sometimes hinder them from accepting or from affirming to these treatment options recommended by the healthcare provider. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
So, good morning, sir. My question is, how can we best establish all the three important principles as a student nurse?
Okay. How can we establish or how can you demonstrate these three important principles? First, allow me to start with the autonomy. Autonomy. So, well, let us not create a dichotomy, a false dichotomy between all of these ethical principles: autonomy, beneficence, and even competence. Because earlier you also mentioned about competence, no? Let us not create a false dichotomy among all of these three ethical principles. Actually, in order for us to, there is no one size fits all framework, no? In order for us to manifest or exhibit this, because this has something to do with our values as a person, no? Our own values. It stems, no? It stems from our values. It starts with our values as a person. Okay? So as a human person, okay, as an ethical nurse, no, as an ethical student nurse, we were taught of the different ethical principles: autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, no, the different frameworks, okay, in nursing ethics, etc., etc. Okay? But how do we apply them? No? It's time that we apply them. We make them as part of our habit. No? A habit, no, a part of our values, although it's not those ethical principles now, which could also be a form of competencies, no? In promoting autonomy, beneficence, it's not those ethical principles will uh, cannot easily be learned overnight. No? That's what I would like to share with you. Okay? You have to integrate them. No? You have to embed those ethical principles in your day-to-day activities as student nurses. Whenever you encounter patients, okay? Whenever you encounter patients in the clinical area, okay? Diba, we do nurse-patient interaction. Okay? And with that nurse-patient interaction, okay, we assess our patients, okay? We gather the objective and subjective data, no? We interview our patients, we obtained health history, okay? We form nursing diagnosis, okay? Dapat nandoon, no? Nandoon integrated sa nursing process, okay? Yung ethical principles na yun. Not only autonomy, not only beneficence, but all the other ethical principles that you have been taught. Okay? We make them a habit. We practice them every day. So that by the time that you become professional nurses, okay? Natural yun sa inyo. No? Natural, spontaneously, no? You will be able to exhibit or manifest those ethical principles. Okay? Hindi kailangang sabihin na, oh, did you ask your patient? Bakit mo agad-agad pinaperma yung patient ng waiver? Did you explain to your patient that these are the benefits, these are the potential risks? No? If he or she will not undergo this particular procedure, okay? Ayan. Again, no, papasok dun yung autonomy. So whenever we administer medication, the right medication, at the right time, the right route, right frequency, etc., etc. Okay? We are promoting beneficence. When we are preventing harm to our patient, preventing medication error, that's non-maleficence. Diba? So everything will come natural to you. No? Na ngayon pa lang, nasa school pa lang, and I believe these ethical principles are being taught to you very well by your professors and clinical instructors. Okay? Ayan. So I hope I was able to answer your question. Thank you.
Good day, sir. Here is my question po. Does competency as a student nurse also involve overcoming one's limitations?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Okay, sir. Does competency as a student nurse also involve overcoming one's limitations?
Okay. Actually, if you're familiar with Dr. Patricia Benner's model of skill acquisition in nursing, which is based on the framework of Dreyfus model of skill acquisition, the novice to expert model, okay? It will take you time to become a competent nurse, okay? And you will need adequate experience. Okay? Why did I use the word adequate? Okay? Adequate, quality, meaningful learning experience. Diyan papasok yung inyong related learning experience, your clinical duties, no, in the area, in the hospital. Okay? With the related learning experience, with your exposure in the hospital, you are expected, no, to develop entry-level nursing competencies, okay, in a particular area. Okay? Not only in the ward, but also in the special areas. Now, what I would like to say is that yes, definitely, once you are a competent, once you become a competent nurse, you will be able to face any limitations that will come your way. Okay? Pero hindi lang naman kailangan ng competence, no? Ang pagiging nurse. You also have to be compassionate. You also have to possess commitment. No? Commitment to our profession as a nurse. Okay? Hindi lang dapat magaling. No? Kailangan may puso din. Okay? Hindi lang dapat excellence, no? But you should also have the heart of a nurse. Okay? So, thank you for that question.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Emerson po. My question for you po is, what is the best way to measure one's competence in healthcare po?
Okay. There is no best way to measure competency in healthcare. Okay? There is no one size fits all when it comes to measuring competency because it may vary in the context. Okay? It may vary in context. For example, you are a nurse in the emergency room. There is a different set of competencies that we have to measure there. If you are a nurse in the delivery room, definitely there is a different set of competencies that we have to measure there. Okay? Likewise, the competencies that are expected from nurses here in the Philippines are also different, no, from the expected competencies among nurses abroad. Okay? So, walang one size fits all, no, when it comes to measuring, okay, or gauging the competence in healthcare. Okay? We have to contextualize. Okay? We have to contextualize the tool or the instrument, okay, that we will use to measure competence. Okay? Thank you very much for that question.
Wow, we love how engaging and educational Dr. Vibar's talk was. It was indeed comprehensive and insightful. We appreciate your valued ideas about this topic. We would like to thank you for sharing your expertise and making our event a success.
We will now proceed with the awarding of e-certificate to our esteemed guest speaker as a token of appreciation. Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is presented to Dr. Emilson B. Vibar, RN, LPT, for imparting his insights and knowledge to the students during the webinar entitled Health Talks Series Alingkod Kalusugan of the School of Nursing, with the theme The ABCs of Healthcare Ethics, given this 9th day of May 2024 at Pan Pacific University, Ordineta City, Pangasinan. Once again, thank you.
As for everyone participating in this event, you will also be receiving an e-certificate of participation. This certificate is presented to everyone here for attending the webinar entitled Health Talk Series, A Lingkod Kalusugan of the School of Nursing, with the theme The ABCs of Healthcare Ethics, given this 9th day of May 2024 at Pan Pacific University, Ordineta City, Pangasinan. With
Now-
that, I am asking everyone to please accomplish this evaluation form. Once completed, the e-certificates will be sent via to your Pan Pacific email addresses.
Now, as our webinar comes to an end, we'd like to welcome Ms. Nancy Lacerna, Assistant Dean of CBIHS School of Nursing and a former Chief Nurse of the Veterans Memorial Hospital, to make some final words on behalf of Dr. Jidel Cabaluna, Dean of the School of Nursing. Please join me in giving her a virtual round of applause, or please say hi in the Q&A section or chat box, please. Thank you.
our beloved Dean, Dr. Judel Cabaluna, I wish to express and to thank you all for being with us today as we come to the end of March. I'd like to take a moment to reflect on what we have accomplished and share a new line of thoughts. Over the course of our Health Talk series, Lingkod Kalusugan of the School of Nursing, with the theme Exploring the ABCs of Healthcare Ethics, we have covered a lot of ground, important principles of nursing professional competence. This discussion has undoubtedly enriched our understanding of healthcare ethics. I want to express my sincere appreciation to everyone who contributed to making the webinar a success. Thank you to our speakers, panelists, and moderators for sharing your experience, expertise, and insights. And thank you to all of you, the attendees, for your active participations and engagement throughout the day. As we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a call to action. I encourage you all to connect with one another and continue the conversation we have started today. Exchange contact with information, follow up on ideas, and explore potential collaboration. Finally, please take a moment to provide us with your feedback. Your input is invaluable as we plan for your future events. Once again, thank you for all your time and participation. It's been a pleasure engaging with you today in our explanation of healthcare ethics. I wish you all wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, and God bless us all.
We sincerely appreciate your participation and support of this webinar. This webinar could have not been a success without you.
Indeed, this activity would not be successful without the presence of each and every one of you here right now in this webinar. On behalf of the webinar holders and facilitators, I would like to thank you all for taking part in our seminar entitled Health Talk Series, Lingkod Kalusugan of the School of Nursing.
There was a ton of information and understanding in this lecture that we could really use on a daily basis. And without the guest speakers, Dr. Emilson B. Vivar and Mr. Chimark C. Madriaga, who shared their knowledge with us to help us better comprehend and learn more about our topic, which is incredibly helpful for us future nurses. That would have not been possible.
I hope that everyone in attendance gained more insight into the importance of supporting health education as a result of this session.
Everyone, let's now sing the Dream PCST.
Tomorrow is here. Behold the key to open the doors where dreams become reality. Be loyal daughters and sons, gratefully offer praise to one, to PCST with honor and pride.
Once again, thank you guest speakers and participants for having the time in today's webinar. And also for the participants, please fill out the attendance form to be sent in the chat box.
I would like also to give a shout out to our organizers, the BSN2 and the BSN4, who put everything together from the beginning until the end. Thank you everyone for your hard work. That concludes our webinar this morning. Have a great day ahead, everyone, and take care.
Good job, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Emelson, and to the students. Maraming salamat. Until the next Health Talk series. Thank you po.